started and roll when we go. If no one else got the sheet finished, we'd like to call the meeting to order. We're a few minutes late, but we'd like to take a roll call, Kendrick.
Yes, sir. First member is Board Member Sandra Gray.
Present.
Board Member Kathleen Marty.
Present.
Chairman Tim Tabak.
Here.
Board Member Trey Ferguson.
Here.
And Board Member Barbara Sampson.
Present.
Board Member George Jones. Absent for the record. Board Member Eric Thompson. Absent for the record. Board Member Mike Duffy. He recused himself just to make it known for the record. And Board Member Brendan Lofton. Absent for the record.
And we still have a quorum?
Yes, sir, we have four.
Yeah, thank you. So I'd like to do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes, I'd like to ask everybody to make sure cell phones are turned off, and I'm sure one might go off, but we'll do our best if it does happen. And appreciate everybody for attending. The meeting this evening is a quasi-judicial hearing, and so we do our best to stay in order and ask everybody to respect everybody else. It's going to take some time to go through, and we know things can get emotional from time to time. We'll do our best to sift our way through. So we do have a 3-minute time limit for discussion. That will start once the presentations are completed. So Kendrick will do a presentation for city staff, and then we'll have a presentation by the applicant. And then we'll have rebuttal. Now the rebuttal part of it, the applicant does get to speak first and last. And during the rebuttal process, we'll also actually try to stay at the 3-minute time limit at that time. So we do have a clock. It will be, we're going to try not to interrupt anybody. We'll try to raise my hand maybe 15 seconds or so towards the end. And please try to do your best to finish at that time, and we'll go from there. Because we would like to hear everybody. That's part of the process. So at this time, I guess we should swear in any presenters. So I'd like to have everybody stand. Yeah, I'm going to sit back there. Trey, give me a hard time about that.
Anyone who's prepared to speak tonight and offer testimony should stand and take oath.
Okay, so are we good to go? Say, do you all solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, thank you. So we're ready for some comments?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here at this Board of Adjustment meeting. Just prior to presenting this agenda item, I'd like to give you some brief explanation as to how the special use permit process works. It is, as the chairman had said before, a quasi-judicial hearing. So while most uses are permitted by right, some uses require a special use permit. The board is actually responsible for basing their decision on these criteria that you can see reflected on the screen. There are 6 criteria, essentially, that they have to deliberate on. Each criteria must be approved prior to the passing of an actual special use permit. The board also reserves the ability to impose additional conditions beyond zoning ordinance requirement. And I'll go ahead and start off by presenting our item for tonight. Good evening to the board and Mr. Chairman. The first and only item here for tonight is Lake Tyler, phases 2 and 3. This is special use permit 824-2024, and the location is 250 Gracie Farms Road and 570 Washington Post Road. The proposed use is multifamily residence. The request summary: the applicant and owner are both Stars and Stripes 4F LLC, and the total acreage is 20.78 acres. The zoning district is residential 10A, or R-10A for the abbreviation, and the proposed use again is multifamily residence. The first map that you're seeing is a vicinity map for the different, the multiple parcels that are tied to the proposed use. The second map here is an aerial map for the same parcels, and they're highlighted in red so that you can see the outline. The last map here, the next map is a zoning map which reflects the R-10A zoning district, and that's in orange for the color there, as far as for distinguishing R-10A. And here is the last map, and it shows the buffer that's introduced as far as for the 100-foot buffer requirement that pertains to our mailings. This gives you an idea as to who was all in that buffer, what mailing list was created, and the different notices that were sent out to those folks that are in that buffer's area. And here is the site plan for the proposed use. This is also followed by a secondary part of their plan. And just some board after actions. If the board has any questions for myself at this time, I'm happy to take those, and I'll see if I can answer those for you.
I guess we're clear on the questions, Ken.
All right. The applicant submitted a PowerPoint, and essentially they're going to have that as part of their presentation. That's been included to take place immediately after these slides. So they're going to be essentially moving forward with presenting their PowerPoint.
Yeah, sounds great.
All right.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Thank you for having us tonight and for hearing our application on this special use permit. My name is Eric Remington. I'm with the law firm of Ward & Smith here in New Bern, North Carolina, and I'm representing the applicant, Stars and Stripes 4F LLC. And I have with me tonight several people who are going to speak to you all about this project in addition to myself. Logan Bailey Perkins, who is going to speak on behalf of Stars and Stripes. Tyler Johnson, who is with St. Bork, which is a company that works with Stars and Stripes. John Thomas, who is the engineer on the project and had actually put together the drawings and things for the planned proposed project. Suzanne Nelson, who is sitting on the second row. She is an appraiser, and she's going to talk to you all about the impact on values of joining properties. And then we have Chase Smith, who's here from DRMP, which is the traffic analysis consultant that we hired. I do have some binders of material that I'd like to hand out, so if I could just take a few minutes to do that and get those to you all.
Sure thing.
Thanks, Ken.
In the binders that we've presented to you all, the information that's in there is under tab 1 is a complete copy of the application minus the plans. The plans were large, and so we did not include those with that. The second tab is a copy of our PowerPoint presentation, which will be also visible on the screen to you and to the members of the audience so that you all can follow along with that. Tab 3 is the proposed site plan, which Kendrick just showed you all on the screen. And then tab 4 is our traffic impact analysis, the complete version of it, which I believe you all got in your packet with this. Tab 6 and 7 are supporting information for compliance with the development ordinances and also the CAMA land use plan consistency. I've put together a chart, and I'll go over that when it's my turn to speak. And then the last information is professional resumes. And we're going to ask that the binder be made part of the record of tonight's proceedings. And with that, what I'm going to do is, as you can see on the first slide that we've got up, those are the team members that are here tonight to try and present this application to you all. Again, the first individual that's going to speak is Logan Bailey Perkins, and he's going to talk about Drapac and Stars and Stripes LLC and what they're about since they are the owner of the property.
Good evening to the board members and all the people from the community who decided to attend tonight. My name is Logan Bailey Perkins. I've been working with Drapac since January of this year. Been working in real estate development for 22 years in various aspects of real estate development projects. I'm here tonight on behalf of Drapac and the applicant Stars and Stripes. Just wanted to quickly tell you a few important facts about who Drapac is. As you'll see in the slide that's up, Drapac is an Australian company. It was founded in 1987 in Melbourne, Australia. We entered the U.S. market in 2011. Initially on the West Coast, however, we decided to move our headquarters to the Atlanta, Georgia area. Currently, the portfolio consists of 17,000 residential lots across 51 projects in 9 states, many of which are in the Southeast, and including many of which are in North Carolina. Tyler Home on the Lake was acquired in 2016, another casualty of the housing recession. At this time, only 16 houses were currently built in the community. As part of our acquisition, Drapac and Stars and Stripes has invested a significant amount of money, infrastructure, time, love, dedication, rebranding efforts, and construction of community amenities to try to bring Tyler on the lake to a real-life living project. Since then, we've been working with national home builders to oversee that vision that we took over and we hopefully enhanced to bring over 300 homes to Lake Tyler. And hopefully we're here tonight, obviously, to see if we can get your authorization and approval to build a little bit more. With that, thank you.
Our next speaker is going to be John Thomas, and he's going to talk about the DRC process and the plans.
Good evening. My name is John Thomas. I'm with Thomas Engineering here in New Bern. I was born and raised in New Bern. We've been operating for a little over 40 years now, and we work in about 8 or 10 counties throughout eastern North Carolina. Just very briefly, we prepared the, I can hear myself really good.
But we can't.
I'm sorry. I got a hearing impairment. I got my hearing aid turned all the way up. Okay.
Well, Eric's a little taller than you.
And I still can't hear you very well, but I'll try my best to listen. As Eric said, we prepared the site plan here. The client, the developer, provided us with a building, several buildings to put on this site, and so after about numerous renditions, we came up with this particular site plan. We have several accesses off of Gracie Farm Road in the interior to the subdivision. As part of the process that we went through, we look at all the infrastructure things that happen on this site, such as water, sewer, stormwater, parking, and everything else that would influence the infrastructure on this site. Our analysis said everything was adequate for this site with those utilities and the infrastructure. As part of this process, we submitted back in the fall to the planning department this particular plan, and it actually went through on November the 17th, departmental review. We received comments from that, and we responded to all those comments. Most of it was just some housekeeping stuff on the plan, but every department in the city responded in some fashion. Some had no comments. Most of them were procedural stuff when we move into the actual development of the plans to construct this facility, which we'll come back to the city to do that. But just to hit on a few of the permits that we'll be obtaining once we get through with this hearing is, we have to do driveway permits with NCDOT and the city. We'll be submitting for erosion and sedimentation control permits once we develop those plans. Stormwater management is a big part of this as well. Water system, sewer system, and also city New Bern construction plan approvals once we get to that. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Does anybody have any questions? Sure.
Mr. Chairman, the green space that's listed on the site plan, that's open green space and is available to any resident in the area?
You're asking about green space?
It's green on your drawing.
I'm sorry.
It's green on your drawing.
Yes, most of the open space is colored in green, if that's what you refer to.
Yeah, it's
Now,
so
that
it's,
doesn't mean that it's wooded or vegetative. It's space that's not part of any part of the roads or the lots that are in.
so it's open space that's available to all the residents
Yes.
to use.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm going to call up Tyler Johnson. He's going to speak to you a little bit about some changes that we've talked about making based on comments from the residents, and also about some of the design aspects of what the concepts are for homes and things for this townhome project.
Good evening, members of the board, chairman. Thank you for your time tonight. My name is Tyler Johnson, as Eric said. I reside in Atlanta, Georgia. I work with St. Burke. I have a bachelor's degree in landscape architecture, master's degree in urban planning and design, and have been working in real estate design and development for over 12 years. So taking the plan we just had up that John put together from an engineering perspective, we've kind of thrown some color on this, and this may help with your green space question. We want to kind of represent the vision that we see for the site here. So we've got the townhomes. Our main entry would be on the page left there off of Gracie Farms Road. And you can see what we have done is preserve, our intent is to preserve a vast amount of some of the vegetation that currently exists on site. There's some nice tree canopy out there. So on the bottom of the screen there along Washington Post Road, we intend to keep a vegetative buffer there for screening purposes. And then on the top of the screen, a very large tree canopy area there. We intend on keeping that as well to help kind of buffer this from the existing single-family homes that are currently in Tyler Home on the Lake. In that, we see a trail system going both through the tree canopy and then in the center of the community, something through there, through that common open space around to the proposed stormwater pond, and try to use these open spaces as common area amenities. As Eric alluded to, we've met with the community, the residents in the community a couple times over the last week, and some of the feedback we received was that there's some concern about the existing pool and whether these residents could use that or not. So what we have done is in the top right portion there, we've removed 4 units and dedicated a space for a potential future amenity, and wanted to move forward in that fashion if possible to show good faith and the feedback that we've received from the residents.
Yes, so let me ask you a question real quick. When you say top right-hand corner, we've got the proposed plan in front of us here also.
Yes, sir.
Are we talking the left-hand section or the
It's
right-hand section?
the left pod
Okay,
and I'd say top right corner of the left pod, just to the right of the pond.
okay, fair enough. And it would be the block of homes that are above the cul-de-sac?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes. There's 4 units there, so in this version, we've removed those and bubbled in a dedicated future amenity space.
Fair enough.
Mr. Chair, just to make sure that the record is clear, there is a site plan that has been included in the binder, I do believe under tab 3, that reflects, it looks like some lots in the area where the gentleman is saying there is now a bubble. If we can make sure that the applicant addresses whether the site plan would need to be amended, what constitutes the site plan that's being proposed to you all tonight.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Could this be done as a condition if it was being considered,
Yes, sir.
where it can be conditioned as lot units 053 through 056 are not part of the approval?
Yes, sir. If that's the applicant's pleasure.
Yes.
Yes, it's my understanding, Mr. Chairman, that if it's a minor change or something like that where it does not increase the density, that can be approved by staff with a condition that the plans just be submitted to them. But that's what the intent would be, is to eliminate that one building and then put an amenity area in that space there that's above the cul-de-sac.
Okay, thank you.
And just really quick, to be clear, you said that this change from the site plan to what we're seeing in front of us now that shows the amenity area was a change that came out of talking with residents and trying to compromise and work with existing residents. Is that right?
Yes, sir, that's correct. We were here 2 weeks ago and attempted a large-scale community meeting. Unfortunately, the venue canceled on us the night before. We did go out to the venue and met in the parking lot with several residents, 8 or 10 or so that still showed up, had a good conversation, got that feedback, and then in an effort to meet with the broader community, we held a virtual meeting this past Monday night, and that was some of the feedback that came back. So not a ton of detail here, but this was what we could do in the matter of 2 or 3 days.
Thank you.
Fair enough, thanks.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. How long is the trail system?
I don't have a measurement, I'm sorry. And again, this is a visual, conceptual. It's not finished design. So, we could get circuitous in there and do mileage markers and that kind of thing would kind of be the thought.
Is that area all accessible from the other homes that are existing currently? Or is there fencing or anything like that?
There's no fencing.
No ditch?
Currently, no. So it could tie into the existing community.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And so the assumption would be that this new open space is also common space for current residents?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Just to continue on and kind of get a little more detailed, we've got a rendering here, again, kind of the vision of what we could see out there. This would be a proposed mix of townhomes, mix of facades, widths, with different materials. That could include hardy plank, board and batten, stone, brick, to vary those facades and not have just elongated runs of repetition, right? We also envision, as you see here, a mix of 2 and 1 and 2 car garages to help with that. In addition to that, some street trees, flowering trees, again, just to create avoiding the repetition as you were to drive down these streets and promote interest in the facades. And then one other point to note here, the intent of this project is for these to be for sale townhomes, not for rent. So just wanted to make that clear as well. And these would be based on a market price at the time that they were sold.
Are they all 2-story?
That's what we're proposing. Yes. And just some representative imagery here. I'll kind of go from left to right. On the left are 2 existing homes in the Tyler Home on the Lake community. The 2 next to that are some representative images of townhomes. Again, similar materials, brick water tables, stone at the entry, hardy plank, potentially board and batten. The ultimate goal is to create a space that's in harmony with the existing community and not create something that's an eyesore or completely different. We want it to fit in with what's already there. And just some street trees, the pond, grass. We could envision the trail system working around the pond and adding to that common open space and usable passive amenity space.
Our next speaker is going to be Chase Smith, and he's going to talk about the traffic impact analysis that was done.
As Eric said, my name is Chase Smith with DRMP. I've been with DRMP since 2013, working almost exclusively on traffic studies. Currently hold my professional engineering license in North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Mississippi, and Virginia. We completed the TIA for this project. Our task when the development team reaches out to us is we reach out to town staff, city staff, Kendrick, and also NCDOT, get them involved and formally set scope parameters, study parameters for the traffic study. For the purpose of this one, we were looking at intersections on 43, essentially from 55 all the way to Gracie Farms Road, including the existing development access on Gracie Farms Road, the proposed development access on that same road, and then also looking at Olivia Road on 43. Once we do that, we go out and collect traffic data on a typical weekday when schools are in session, typically Tuesday through Thursday. We collected those, and you collect those during those typical peak periods during the day when folks are heading to school, heading to work, and then coming back home from work. So 7 to 9 and 4 to 6 are those usual parameters. And then once we do that, we project just typical community growth, add that on to our study network, and then that creates a baseline for us. Then generate development traffic based on nationwide and industry-wide standards, and add that on to that network as well, and then put it into industry and nationwide and industry-wide software, traffic analysis software, and take a look at how those intersections are operating. Based on the findings of our study, the majority of our study areas working within those NCDOT thresholds, where we might consider improvements. The one intersection where we had to take a look at a little something different was that Olivia Road access, and based on the volumes that we were seeing and sort of how things were operating, that intersection would meet the warrants for the implementation of a signalized intersection. I will say the one caveat that we have is that traffic study has been submitted to Kendrick's staff as well as NCDOT, and it's still under review. So it's pending review and approval. So we'll open it up to questions if there are any.
Mr. Chairman, I'm confused about the traffic signals, to be very honest, of the plans that I saw, because they've changed. How many traffic signals are you planning on 43 in order to get into this subdivision?
Just the one.
At Olivia or
Yes,
Gracie?
at Olivia. That's
Nothing
correct.
at Gracie?
No.
And those coming out on Gracie, or coming out of the subdivision onto Gracie, there's no signal?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so I had a question, Kendrick, as far as approval of the plans. So where do we stand there? It sounded like the traffic plan has not been approved, or?
So you're correct, Chairman. It has not been completely or completed. So, but that doesn't hold up necessarily them going forward to submit their application and process to the Board of Adjustment. They're still underneath review currently through NCDOT, I believe, if that's correct.
Yep.
Okay, so the city reviews and NCDOT would review it.
Yes, in some ways, the NCDOT would have to complete that review.
Because of the state highway, I'm assuming?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Yeah.
Chairman Tabak, I'd just like to add that at this stage of the process, a traffic impact analysis study is not required for this part of the process, but they went ahead and did one, and they would agree to be bound by whatever DOT finds, whatever the city finds. So if it says that there needs to be traffic lights there, they're going to put in the traffic lights and things like that. I just want to make that clear for the record.
Yep. Yeah, thank you. Well, that would lead me to a question of Jamie then. Is that something else that we would have to add as a condition of approval?
You could,
But we don't have to.
but you do not have to. You may hear some additional evidence this evening that causes you to make a determination about whether you want to include that condition or not.
Okay.
May I ask for a clarification of that? What would the condition be? Because it's my understanding that the board can't impose conditions that deal with the areas that are under the purview of DOT.
Correct. So it may bear out that the condition is that you're to comply with any DOT regulations.
Okay. I got you.
Not a specific number of traffic lights or whatever, because we don't have that information
I'm with
at
you.
this time.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, thank you.
Our next individual is going to be Suzanne Nelson. She's going to come up and talk about the value impact study that she did.
Good evening. I'm Suzanne Nelson, commercial real estate appraiser, and I'm an owner of Realty Services of Eastern Carolina here in New Bern, and I live in Jacksonville, North Carolina. The purpose of my report was to analyze the impact, if any, that the project could have on the adjoining parcels. In doing so, we analyzed 4 different multifamily development projects, 3 in Craven County, 1 in Onslow. With that, we analyzed the sales transactions as well as the assessed values of the adjoining parcels within these different developments. And we did it both before the projects were built to see what the values and sales prices were, as well as after the projects had been built. And with that, our findings revealed that there was no negative impact or, adverse effect on any of the adjoining parcels. So with that being said, based on the physical characteristics of the proposed project tonight, that we do not feel that there will be any sort of negative impact on the adjoining properties. So do you guys have any questions for me?
No questions.
I guess we're good. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
All right. Next speaker will be me, and I'm going to talk to you about consistency and compatibility with the land use plan. And again, I've included some information behind tab 7 of your binder. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I will say that going through the land use plan for the city of New Bern, the one key thing is that this area is within the North Carolina 43 focus area that's been identified as one of the 3 focus areas in the land use plan. Based on information that's in the land use plan, predominantly the population is in the ages of 18 to 64, and most of the use in New Bern is single-family residential. And there is a need for multifamily type residential structures. And so we believe that this townhome project would help satisfy some of that need. There are major employers that are close by to this area. You've got, of course, the hospital that's nearby, Bosch, which is very close to this, International Paper, which is very close, and also Moen, which is to the west of the site. The current zoning, as Kendrick said, is R10A, and that does allow multifamily use as a special use. But because it is included in the table as a special use, there is a presumption that that's in harmony with the area, because the board, the Board of Aldermen have created that table of uses and found that it is a harmonious use. You just have to go through this process to get a special use permit. It is located in an urban developed area, and there are no environmental or natural hazards from flooding, storm surge, or any sea level rise. And then it meets suitability with the North Carolina 43 focus area factors, which are that there's, again, no environmental restrictions in the area. Water and sewer are readily available, which are indicated on the plans that Mr. Thomas submitted. It's close proximity to major roads, close proximity to major employers, and it's also in close proximity to fire and rescue. I've put together a chart, which is again in that tab 7 for you, that shows all of the different criteria that this is compatible with. Again, I'm not going to go through all of them, but this type of housing is compatible with the neighborhood. You're talking townhomes, and you saw what the concept are for those townhomes. They may change some in the planning phases and the preliminary planning phases, but that's the concept that is being proposed for the area. The site is suitable for proposed development, which is land use development 1.6. It has suitable soils and infrastructure. It would provide growth to the North Carolina 43 focus area. There's connectivity for traffic flow and stormwater, and of course we've had the TIA done. And it's still in the review process, but we're working on that. And those will be coordinated through NCDOT. The site will have walking paths and trails, as been noted on those renderings of the plans. All right, continuing on, the infrastructure would be installed during the development, and the site will have adequate off-street parking, as is noted by the fact that there are garages, and then there will be short driveways for the people to use. The developer is going to, have to go through planning process to submit all plans and get approvals of those plans, and that's where, the specific design criteria will be approved. But basically, the site is in a utility-served area. It includes open space and walking trails. It has environmentally friendly landscape design, including preserved vegetated buffers, and that was important. We wanted there to be some buffer between the Lake Tyler community folks because they were concerned about it. So we left those vegetated buffers around the property. There's no, as I said, no environmental flooding or storm surge hazard areas. The project targets suitable development, and it's also in alignment with the existing plans that the city has. So bottom line is basically with the North Carolina focus area, 43 focus area, there is growth that is available to be had in this area, and this would be well suited to help growing that area. At this time, that concludes our presentation. We would like to reserve the right, as you mentioned, Chairman, to speak in rebuttal if there are comments from the public that are made. Oh, is that you? Sorry, I thought I was doing that. And so if we could have that time to come up again, we would appreciate that. And of course, we're willing to answer any kind of questions that you all have about the project.
Yes, they most definitely to the being able to come up and for the rebuttal. And does any board member have any additional questions before we open for public comment?
None at this time.
Okay.
And Mr. Chair, just for the record, if you could note that you are receiving the binder tendered by Mr. Remington into the record.
Yes, sorry. We do. We all have a binder, and we would like to put that on the record that we did receive it as testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. So we're going to go through the public comment section and open it here in a second, but I'd like to just ahead of time say that we're going to ask in different levels, I guess you'd say. So first we're going to ask for folks that signed in that did receive a letter, and I do have the current sign-in sheet, and I'll go through the names that are on it. Then we'll ask for folks that did not sign in but did receive a letter. Thirdly, we'll ask for folks that can justify that there is standing, and then move on from there. So we'd like to open the public comment, and there's one person that is listed on the sign-in sheet that did say that they received the letter, and that's Miss Sharon Dembosa. Is that correct? Demboski. Okay, I'm sorry. And for the record, could you also state your name and address, since I messed it up a little bit there, and then we'll go from there. Yep.
All right. Hi, my name is Sharon Demboski. I am a resident of Tyler Lake. I live at 210 Gabriel Street, which is directly adjacent to this proposed development. We just moved in September, so we were unaware that this was potentially going to be developed, and one of the reasons we moved there and picked that house was because of the wooded area behind. So if you looked at that map, we're number 6 on that lot map. And so they propose to leave the trees, I'm assuming, behind us for so many feet, which I guess is good. I'm not sure how much of that is going to be a buffer. But my concern from hearing what I heard tonight is they're going to put walking paths in there. It's not a very big space. So I have concerns about having people walking behind my property. Is there going to be some kind of fencing up, some kind of buffer? I wasn't aware that was going to happen. Also, it was said that there was going to be access for the current residents of Tyler Lake. How are they going to access that walking trail? Because I definitely don't want people walking through my property to get there, even though we have a fence in the back. But, what is the proposal for people to access from I'll say Gabriel Street? You talked about traffic on 43. Frida Street looks like it's going to be now a through street. Frida Street is kind of at the end of Gabriel, and it looks like it's going to be open to the development. Is that true? I don't know if that's true or not. So people coming out of the new proposed area, if they come out on Frida, they could potentially go through the whole Tyler Lake development or turn on Gabrielle, which is my street, out onto Gracie Farms. So I don't know if that was a consideration. I don't know if they discussed that impact. There is an outlet on Gracie Farms, as you can see, but what impact is that going to have on people coming out on Gabrielle to get onto Gracie Farms? So I would like that addressed. A lot of my questions were answered. I wasn't sure what kind of structures these were going to be, so supposedly they're going to be 2-story. They're going to be for sale, which is better than for rent, I guess. I wasn't sure what the other residents in Tyler Lake talked about as far as the use of, the pool that's there, the mailboxes, that kind of thing, since this is part of Tyler Lake development. What kind of impact is that going to be to have 200 more people, accessing this, the amenities there? And I think lastly for me, it's, I lost my train of thought. I really lost my train of thought. I would like to know, when or if this gets approved, how long will this construction be? We would be in phase 3, I guess, but how long would that timeline be where we would be under construction? So.
Okay. Does the board have any questions?
Yeah,
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, question before you leave. You said the back of your property is fenced, or is the entire property fenced?
The back of my property is fenced.
Are most of your neighbors fenced?
No.
Okay.
The properties on either side of mine are not fenced. So people could potentially cut through those properties and walk onto this, trail system, whatever the heck you're proposing to put in.
And you currently say you can exit Gabriella Street onto Gracie
Yes.
and make a left turn if you wanted to go to 43.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So is there anybody else here that did not sign up that received the letter of notice? Okay.
I have standing, but I didn't receive the letter, and I have...
Well, hang on one second. You'll be next. But just let's make sure that we didn't miss anybody that did receive a letter. Okay.
Did not. Did not. Did receive.
Did receive a letter. Yeah, so that's the next step. We're going to go through the ones that signed up first, and then we'll ask the ones that have standing that did not sign up. So that'll be, please be patient. We'll try to keep everything in order. You're good? Okay, so. Okay, so I'm just going to start at the top of the list for folks that did sign up. And Eric, I can't read your last name. Okay. So we got you there. So is it Miss Cisco? Miss, okay. Scott, okay. Sorry, I couldn't read.
That's quite all right.
So anyway, could state your name and address?
Scott Cisco, 304 Frida Road.
And that is in New Bern?
Correct. It's in the Lake Tyler community.
Okay.
I had a quick question. I had prepared comments here, but like if I had these two questions answered, they would kind of help with the relevancy of it. I'd be happy to yield if the chairman or a board member would like to ask. The light on their presentation, it said it said they had Olivia Farms Road, which is in combining the two. It's either Olivia Road or Gracie Farms. Where is that light projected to be?
We'll have to ask.
Okay.
Look through the traffic study.
All right. Also, it was just brought up prior to Frida Road. I can't tell if that's actually going to be a thoroughfare or if it's connected to our community, because that would have quite a bit of difference as far as traffic. If that's the case, if that is connected to the community, I would say that I'm against those plans as they're proposed, because I believe that they're not in harmony with the character of the neighborhood as required for the special use permit. And if it is like that case, I think it would have a detrimental impact on my street. I'm not against the development of the property. I think it's reasonable that the development should match the surrounding area. From the beginning, when a zoning change was requested and denied for an apartment complex, to the current proposal, the plan seems to be build as many housing units as possible, really without consideration for the current residents. We live in a single-family neighborhood, and I don't see how dense multifamily housing, which these townhouses are, is in keeping with the harmony of the area in our neighborhood in which we live. I have no objection if the community was continued into more single-family homes. The entire area, which includes Route 43, is already quite busy with traffic, during commuting hours. And simple math would tell you that adding 145 townhomes with each having approximately 2 vehicles adds almost 300 more vehicles to the area where we already have heavy traffic congestion. And the plans as they are now, if they're connected to Frida Road where I live, they would a lot of that traffic there would likely be exiting through the new community onto my street and into my part of the existing Lake Tyler. At the minimum, if this was approved, there should be, it should not be connected to our community. This should be treated as a separate community because all those townhomes is not in character with a single-family neighborhood. If they need an additional entrance, I'm sure there's other areas where they can make an additional entrance and not be connected to our community. I'd like to see the natural barrier, kept intact and us being separated from all of these units. I understand there's a need for multifamily housing, but even the applicants acknowledge that this is a largely single-family home area, so which is likely why many live here. There's large areas around here that could be developed for high-density housing, and I just don't see how it fits in with our community, and pretty much the reason why a lot of us live there. Thank you.
So, I've got a question.
Sure.
I guess currently there are no traffic lights for access out?
There are no traffic lights. So that was my concern. Like if the new community is connected to the current community, especially on my road, which is Frida, a lot of those vehicles, I would assume for maybe based on that map, it'd be direction-wise, it'd be the southern part of the new development would probably come up Frida and then go through the community and exit out Olivia, which already is backed up in the morning. And so now all that traffic would be entering our community and dispersing through the streets of our community.
And I think there was some discussion about potential having a traffic signal at one of the ingress or egress points, and I think, would that help you all as far as solving some of your challenges maybe, or not?
It depends on where it is. Like I said, in their presentation, they had it as Olivia Farms Road, which is not. It's Olivia or Gracie Farms, so I don't understand where they actually mean it's going to be. If it's going to be Gracie Farms Road, that would help over there, but as far as if it's here, if it's at Olivia Road, that means that the traffic from that community would be coming through our community. It already backs up past the pool sometimes in the morning during commuting hours. Now, if you had potentially a couple hundred more vehicles coming out of that community through ours to Olivia, it would greatly extend the delay, especially if there's going to be a traffic light there. There would be a need of traffic light just for the increase in volume of traffic.
Fair.
But if it was at Gracie Farms, what that would do basically would stop all traffic on 43 and potentially back it up, so where if there was not a traffic light at Olivia Road, the traffic would be heading north. We'd be backed up where you wouldn't even be able to exit the current community anyway, because the traffic at 43 would be backed up to a standstill.
We're good. We'll talk with a little bit more.
And that's why I just
other
need a
questions.
clarification, because that presentation wasn't clear.
Fair enough. Yes, sir.
An objection, Chairman Taylor, because we got a little bit too much into traffic analysis, and this gentleman has not allowed he's not laid foundation or anything, and traffic has to be addressed by experts. So I just want to know that objection.
Yes, fair enough.
I would say my
April
traffic
question.
is from my visual observations in the morning of being a resident there.
He has a valid point there.
Okay.
So we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I will take a second and will add that in. The objection was due to expert testimony, and sometimes when we don't have things that are done by an expert witness, we do have, as board members, a challenge not being able to, I guess, put as much standing with that information. So please be concerned a little bit how that comes up and help us to where we don't have to ask a person to stop speaking because of the information that's being presented and lack of expert testimony was brought up. Because again, this is a public hearing, it is quasi-judicial, and so as judges, we do have to kind of make that information and distinguish expert versus non. So thank you. So the next one on the list, Connie. I think all those. Is it everything here else? Okay. Yeah, so could you name an address?
Connie McFadden, 712 Lake Tyler Drive, New Bern, North Carolina.
And you do live in the city?
Yes.
You did not receive a letter, so you're
I
in the
did not.
adjoining community. Okay.
And I did not plan on speaking, but our speaker did not show up. So I have a list of concerns from lots of neighbors, not just me personally, and a lot of it has been addressed, the major things that they're asking, and most of these people have children. I do not have little children. They're worried about the safety of the kids and all these cars going down the road and the traffic, and of course our dogs. When people walk their dogs a lot in the neighborhood, and they're concerned about overflow parking. At the new townhouses, I believe they said people are expected to park in their garage and in their driveway. Well, if they have visitors, where are their visitors going to park? Because we have no overflow parking in in the existing neighborhood, except maybe at the mailboxes, which is where our pool is. So parking's a concern, traffic's a concern, safety's a concern, and our little pool that we currently have is a huge concern because we really don't want to share if we don't have to, because it's not big enough for the development that we have, and our development is not completed, so our roads are not paved. So they want to start, or they're mentioning moving on to another direction when they haven't finished inside where we are. We don't want to be forgotten. And I believe that's about all I have.
Well, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does the board have any questions? Okay, yeah, thank you. So if I've gone through the list properly, I think we've finished everybody that did sign up. Did I miss anybody? That did sign up? Okay. So next we're going to go through folks that did not sign up and try to do this orderly. So maybe we can start in the front row. If there's somebody in the front row that does have standing that did not sign up that would like to come forward and speak. Yes, sir. And just come forward and name and address. And
Good evening. My name is Alan Yoder. You said something about standing. I live on Gracie Farms Road in Lake Tyler. Does
Yes,
that
sir.
qualify?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'm at 210 Gracie Farms Road, which is just from the map on Gracie Farms Road, which is the left area of the green, and just go up a few houses. It's called Gracie Farms Road, but we call it the Gracie Farms Speedway. We are literally at the edge of New Bern. My front yard is the border, so the Gracie Farms Road is in the county. So we have no police surveillance or anything there. It's the county sheriff, and they don't really give a crap. So our problem that we see, questions that we have, the green area with the nice trails, I would ask how many feet between the corner of the house to the corner of the proposed units. I can see it here, but I don't know if you can see what I'm talking about. If you follow the upper right-hand green, kind of a swirl down to the corner where it drops straight down, from that corner to that house, how many feet is there? It looks like there's about 20 or less. So I think these trails are going to be right on top of all these folks back in there. It's swamp now. If you go back in there and look, you see the reflections off all the water. Can they build in a swamp? We've had tremendous drainage issues right from the day one when they built Lake Tyler homes, and all the water had to be graded and diverted elsewhere, and it allegedly went down that way, and I figured that's where the water came from in that swamp, was from our development. So I'm not sure how they're going to address that. The properties are supposed to be for sales, not rentals. Does there any restrictions for landlords buying a bunch of them and then renting them out? In essence, no covenants. And why not have a road access on 43 of their own? Let them share in the misery that we have. We have Gracie Farms Road. We have Olivia, and it's a mess. And if these guys get it figured out, if one of them gets a light, then the other guys are going to go up Frida and go whichever way and just add 300 cars to get to that light. We could use a couple lights there, quite frankly, but probably not going to happen. It should. The main thing is, and we don't know from the developer, we've been lied to before, but.
Well, we got 3 minutes, so appreciate it. Yes, sir. So I think Eric was probably pretty close to asking about expert testimony again as far as traffic. So please, the traffic part of things, let's be careful how far we go. I think I've got a list of questions that we'll eventually ask on the traffic study, and we'll hopefully get some of that addressed during either the rebuttal process or by board members. So we're in the front row. We started there on the right. Do we have another? So we're done with the front row, but second row back, behind. Okay, you already spoke, I guess, first, over on the right-hand side. You're with the city, I think. Is that right? With the glasses up? You're good? Okay. Blue shirt. Do you plan to speak?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Could you come forward? Name and address and where you are. Try to help us out a little bit in staying with the map, how you fit into the process.
Yes, sir. My name is Clarence Brown. lived in D.R. Horton since 2017. If I'm not wrong, actually, we're probably the first house that D.R. Horton built and sold. Sorry, I don't have my glasses on at the moment, but dead center up is the cul-de-sac, which is Louisa May, and our plat is the one at the dead right bottom, bordered by the heavy black line. When we bought the house, and shame on me for not double checking the contract after we had signed, we were told because it's a wetlands, nothing would be built, nothing could be done about that, understood. But imagine you moving into that place, everything's flat, nothing built, and you paid $250,000 for that house and told nothing would be built to the side. It would be one amenity, an amenity house, and then a pool further. But because it's a wetlands, nothing can be built behind. So I'm a little concerned about that, as well as what appears to be a pond there, which is a great place to breed mosquitoes. So I'm kind of curious what the pond is for and how they're going to protect the land above that from mosquito infestation. That's pretty much the end of mine.
Okay. Question for you. The pond, the one we're talking about is the common space, the one that's kind of like a kidney bean or whatever there?
I believe so, sir. It's pretty much just below our land and the one next to us.
Okay.
Between us and all the townhomes they plan on building.
Fair enough. Yep, thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Mr. Chair, can we get Mr. Brown's address for the record, please?
I guess we missed it. I wasn't paying good enough attention and asked you for your address. We got your name, but we need the address.
Oh, I'm sorry. 300 Louisa May Way,
Okay.
New Bern, North Carolina.
Yep, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Jamie. Okay, perfect. Fellow with the cap on, with the black and the red, are you to come forward and speak? Well, come on forward then. I mean, we won't be able to hear you and get the name and address if you don't come forward.
All right. My name is Alexander Carmen. Can anyone hear me? I stay in 209 Freedom Road. I've been out there about 4 years. I've seen a lot of stuff, and I disagree with a lot of stuff, and I agree with a lot of stuff. But on the behalf, I'm not looking at myself, I look at other people as well all around Eastern North Carolina. Only thing I ask is get started on the development as soon as possible. Stop building. I support Sam Burke and you.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, we can't hear you. We can't hear you.
I see the only thing I see is development get started as soon as possible. I support D.H. Hardin and Sam Burke.
Sir, you have to direct your
have to speak into the mic.
I'm sorry. Anyway, I support Sam Burke and D.H. Hardin for a long time. I'm the person who out there 4 years trying to keep the community clean, keep the property value up, so decent people come in and have a decent place to live. Not only Lake Taro community, but all over Eastern North Carolina. And my concern is that when the development gets started, and hoping to get started as soon as possible. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Okay, so the gal with the cap? You're good. Please state your name and address, and help us out a little bit too, where you fit in with the puzzle of the project.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time.
Yeah, so we need name and address,
Yes.
and then try to help us on the map. Tell us where you are located in reference to the project.
Yes, sir. I'm Wendy Card. I live at 4623 Rainmaker Drive, and thank you, Chairman and the board, for hearing me. I own newbernnow.com, which is a local news website, newsroom. I've been doing this 15 years. In the last 3 years, I've been covering local government meetings so other people don't have to watch them for the public interest. So with that said, I'm very aware of land use zoning, all the different regulations, and I would like to be recognized as an expert because I believe I have competent material and substantial evidence related to the case, and I request to be recognized as an expert. And I'm not an attorney, so bear with me.
In an expert in what area are you? Can you define the area?
To provide information so you all can make an informed decision. I have if you would allow me to enter information into the record.
The first question, in order to be tendered as an expert and offer expert opinion, a foundation has to be laid as to your qualifications, your knowledge, training, and experience, such that you have information or knowledge that the average person would not have that would help the trier of fact in making a determination.
I understand. Thank you. I report. I physically go to locations. I inspect them. I take photos, and I live in Planters Ridge community. And I don't normally stand here and talk about my business or anything. This is about our community and making sure that information is provided. And I've been doing this for 15 years. Specifically, I've been reporting on local government, like providing journalism in the public interest. So I feel that I'm very well suited as an expert. I'm a retired Navy chief that was at Bureau of Medicine and Surgery. I worked on regulations. I know how to read Craven County maps, parcels. I identified issues last meeting that were in your written decisions that the city was not aware of. So I feel that I'm an expert in this field, and I would like to be recognized.
When you say in this field, and what particular, subject matter, are you just referring to this,
this hearing?
This hearing and the special use permitting process, is that?
No, things that are related to this actual development, the site plans, I have I have knowledge that will provide, so you all can.
I think, and I will defer to the attorney on this, but I think we can, as the trier of fact here and considering this, we can hear what you have to say without accepting you as expert testimony, and then we will note whether or not we accept you as expert testimony to consider the evidence you submit in our decision, or we'll address whether or not we, allow you as an expert and take your evidence into consideration. Is that?
I'm happy to answer your question, but I see Mr. Remington standing. I don't know if he's making an objection or.
For the record, I'm going to object to Ms. Carr testifying as an expert because she does not have any kind of qualifications or foundation to testify as an expert. Just the fact that she's a reporter doesn't make her have any kind of special background, training as an engineer, as a appraiser, as a traffic consultant, anything like that. So we would object to her providing any kind of testimony. Also, I was not clear as to whether Ms. Carr lives in the area, in the neighborhood of Lake Tyler. So I don't think she has any standing at all, or any evidence that she would provide is not competent material to this hearing. Thank you.
Okay, so I think the first question would be, from my standpoint, is where actually is your residence and location to this project?
I live on Rainmaker Drive, which is 100 feet. There's a parcel that I'm a member of the HOA, and a parcel has been identified that we own as a HOA. There's 97 members, and the parcel is the sliver. It actually is parcel ID number 222-A-008. It's directly across from the road from the subject development. It's two parcels.
It's over here.
So there's 97 people in my HOA, and we are not notified. I saw that our parcels are listed on the general plan that was, I missed the beginning of this meeting, so the general plans, created by Mr. Thomas, had the parcel numbers, the adjacent parcel numbers, and if you will, depending on if I'm recognized as an expert, I'd like to enter this into evidence that this was the parcel, this is a screenshot of the general plan.
Well, Mr. Chair, before
Sure.
we get into the introduction of documentary evidence, we have a threshold issue about whether this particular witness either, one, has standing to offer lay witness testimony, or two, has laid a foundation sufficient to be qualified as an expert in something that is germane to these proceedings. What I'm hearing is that this witness has 15 years of journalistic experience reporting on various local government issues. If you all believe that an expert journalist witness is helpful to you, then you certainly could tender her in that capability, and she can offer expert testimony within that universe. If Ms. Card is able to demonstrate some educational background about land use or planning or engineering or some other factor that's relevant to the application tonight, you certainly can entertain that testimony. If she's a member of a professional organization related to these issues, you can entertain that testimony. But so far, we do not have a foundation to substantiate any claim of Ms. Carr being an expert witness in something germane to these proceedings. So at this point, we either need to develop the foundation for her expert testimony or determine whether she has standing to participate as a lay witness.
Just to make sure I'm understanding, you are a property owner and your property is across the street from this proposed development?
I am not within 100 feet, but there's a parcel at the HOA. But I'm a property owner right across from that big rectangle or the weird shape is a retention pond, and I live directly across from there. So any kind of in and out, actually I have the terminology. Sorry.
Well, it really sounds like we're stretching, information to make the process. So I guess my first, go ahead, since you.
Yes, actually, I would suffer specific damages because the only way in and out of my property is via Rainmaker Drive. If this permit is approved, the high-density development would add an estimated, this is according to the TIA that was updated, the traffic impact analysis, it would add approximately 2,502 vehicles to the immediate area of NC 43 Washington Post Road. This would bring destructive traffic to the ingress and egress to my house. Like, there's no other way in and out.
I will say, just to kind of streamline this, I don't think that qualifies as special damages. I don't think, based on what you've laid as far as your qualifications, qualifies you as an expert such that we can accept your tender of expert testimony. However, the fact that you're a property owner across the street, at this point I'm leaning towards that you would have standing to provide the lay witness testimony. And so you could provide that testimony, which would be that couldn't discuss traffic or the economic values to abutting parcels, as those are statutorily required to have expert testimony. That is, I'm just telling the board, that is where I am leaning. However, obviously the chair is the one who rules on the objections that have been lodged.
So does anybody else on the board have any comments?
It would appear that your entrance to Rainmaker Drive is not opposite Olivia Road, which is the current entrance for the Tyler development. Is that correct?
It is 100 feet from Morningstar, or approximately 100 feet from Rainmaker and Olivia. And I have an image, if that would help you.
We can see it on the map. We've got a map in front of us.
Okay, but I mean, it's not like down the street. It is directly. So if you had a light, I mean,
okay.
I don't know how that. Anyhow.
All right, real quick, if we can hear the objection.
Ms. Carr is trying to get into traffic issues which are not purview of lay testimony, and that's clear from statutes and also from the case law. So again, I don't see any relevance or competency to the testimony at all.
Your objection's noted, and obviously the chair could rule on it. Is any part of your testimony not related to traffic or property values?
My testimony is related to what has been entered in the record as far as a TIA, and I'm not talking about, this should be designed this way. the original TIA said the speed limit is 45 miles an hour.
Again,
It's
just
55
really quick, because we're at the threshold issue at this point.
Okay.
We're way past the 3 minutes also.
I have documentary
So.
evidence, and actually, I've read the law. And Attorney Mosley, I'm not sure if you said, but me with 15 years of journalism experience is not qualified to provide evidence, documentary.
I'm going to continue to object, because she's just talking about traffic issues and things like that with regard to which she doesn't have foundation to be an expert. So she should not be allowed to testify.
So, Mr. Chair, you may want to elicit a response to Mr. Ferguson's question. If you all decide that Ms. Card has standing or demonstrated special damages to offer lay person testimony, does she have anything to offer, any evidence to offer outside of traffic or economic value type issues? I don't think that question has been answered.
Yeah, I don't think it has been either. So I guess that would be the thing. I'll let Trey ask it again since he was the one that asked it originally. Please answer the question directly. Please not avoid it this go round.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Card, is your testimony that you would like to give have anything to do with traffic or economic impact or economic values to adjacent parcels?
No.
Okay. Given that, I don't think that she qualifies. My previous statement, I don't think she qualifies as an expert. As far as layperson testimony, the statute's clear here, and again, I'll defer to the attorney to read it. That I don't think layperson testimony can be given on traffic as well as economic value of the adjacent parcels. Those require expert testimony. And since your testimony doesn't have anything to do with anything else outside of those two pieces, I don't think your testimony would be helpful to the proceedings.
Can I ask you to define traffic? What is your definition of traffic? Like traffic accidents? What is your definition?
I think traffic, the impact the development will have on traffic. I don't have the statutory language in front of me, but again, that's the statute. I'll defer at this point to the chair to rule on whether or not to allow your layperson testimony.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question that we're at an impasse, as far as trying to move forward. And I know we also went past the 3 minutes, and I'm assuming that based on the fact that there's been discussion about traffic, your point's been relatively well made, that you're concerned about 2,500 vehicles of traffic. That's in the record already. So I appreciate that. But I think we need to move on past the 3 minutes.
So I cannot provide lay testimony as a person with standing. I mean, I am a paying board member with the HOA. There's 97 of us, and we are not even notified.
Well, I think, and Jamie or Kendrick one might be able to answer the question a little bit better in reference to, we have a list of all the folks that were in the area and were notified. And maybe y'all can maybe answer a little bit about how that process is put together to where there's a good understanding.
There's a presumption that if you live within 100 feet of the proposed site, there's a presumption that you have standing. If you live outside of that 100-foot buffer, a witness can offer testimony as to how they would experience some special impact unique from other people in the world. So, for instance, if you live 101 feet, you may be able to offer testimony today about how you will specially be impacted, and you should have standing to comment on the project. Here today, we have a witness who is across the street. You may be satisfied that she has offered testimony to demonstrate to you all that she has some type of special damage. If that is in fact the case, then you can determine that she has standing to offer layperson testimony. I'm not sure if you all have made a determination about whether Ms. Card has offered sufficient evidence to demonstrate that she would experience special damages or some special impact.
Again, as far as what I've heard so far is that your concern is about traffic, and traffic is not a concern or a damage special to you. It would be something that is about the community. That's what special damages is. So that's why I don't think you have standing. My determination is I don't think you have standing based on the evidence or the testimony you provided so far. So
It should also be noted that North Carolina general statute requires adjacent property owners to be mailed notice. The city of New Bern actually requires above and beyond that, but the general statute for that is 160D-602, and that would be notice of a hearing.
Thanks, Rob.
Any additional comments, questions?
I just like to say, do you have anything thing to say about how it's going to affect you, without saying, do you give any professional testimony or talking about the traffic and anything? Do you have anything to say about how it will affect you per se?
Yes, I believe I do, but
So the question comes back to, we're trying to determine standing. One is a professional and two is a layperson. And I think the comments have already come to the point that we've made the understanding that there is no standing from a professional standpoint. So I think now we're trying to wade through the process if they're standing from a layperson standpoint. And Trey's comments and questions have continuously been avoided, we'll say, in reference to the traffic. And so I'd really like to say we need to move on, and since we're at the 3 minutes well above, and I think some of the comments have been made, and move to the next person to come forward.
okay, I apologize, sir. Can I just ask if records that are in evidence, if they are incorrect, that has nothing to do with traffic, it has to do with incorrect evidence. And I have emails from NCDOT that prove that information is incorrect, or they're two different sets of information, right?
Yeah, so where I'd probably need to go with this is we've already had testimony, and we already know that we could potentially add a condition to a vote, whether positive or negative, on the special use permit. And that vote would, for a condition, would include that DOT, their valid report, we'll say, for lack of a better word, would be included with the provision that this process could move forward. We have that ability, and I think there'll be some more questions asked as we move forward with the meeting of our expert with the traffic. So that's come up. I don't think we're saying no, that we don't want to hear. I think that we understand, and the expert testimony and the lay testimony from others here tonight have already brought up the traffic challenge, the DOT information, and we'd like to move forward there. And that's why we ask the standing question, and why we ask for people to sign in where they live, and move from there. And I think that's why Trey asked the questions in reference to professional experience when it came to traffic. So we've gone through the process. I think we all as a board have done our best with to staff to make a good decision. So we'd sure appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so white shirt, vest, name and address, and please help us out with location.
Sure. Hi, I'm Patrice Morris. I'm located at 736 Lake Tyler Drive.
Okay, so you are in the Lake Tyler
Yes.
subdivision?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Basically speaking on behalf of a community, people that had gotten together and some of their issues, someone else was supposed to speak, couldn't show, so they asked if I would speak for them. Some of the things, well, first of all, I am for the townhouses. I appreciate them going back to the table and putting that together over the apartments. But there are concerns. People would like really to have separate HOAs and not a combined. So these are questions that I'm just shooting out with hopes that maybe they can get answered with yes or no tonight if this is going to happen. They're concerned about the small size of the pool. Will it accommodate both? But I believe tonight that was pretty much determined that there will be amenities on the new townhomes, which would include a pool. They're concerned about the streets being paved and nails and all that stuff while construction is happening on Lake Tyler, since that is kind of the main entrance. Will that be cleaned up? Because last time, I guess a lot of people had nails in their tires. Frida was a big concern about the entrance I guess proposed that the fire department has to have an extra exit in and out or whatever on Frida. So not just Gracie Farms, there is another opening towards Frida. I had suggested to the community that perhaps a permanent gate would be put there and only opened and closed by sirens or horns that are on emergency vehicles, because they do have that. My husband's a retired firefighter. So where the gate would stay closed so people cannot have access to Frida coming in and out. They just use their Gracie Farms in and out exit. So that kind of would alleviate a lot of concern in the community on Frida. If there could be that type of gate, that maybe the fire department would help supply or something. That was everyone's concern. The next, we really didn't touch much on phase 2, which was the 99 more homes that will be built around the lake. And so they're concerned about that traffic on top of the now 141 units being had. Would a traffic light be when everything is completed? That's what everyone wants to know. Or is it going to be when phase 2 is completed, there'll be a traffic light? And also, will there be more phases? Is 2 and 3 the end of it building, or will there be any more homes to be built after phase 3 is done? So that's all I have, and if anybody can answer, again.
Yes, so are there any additional questions by board members?
I believe that was everything they were concerned with. Okay?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Good deal. Thank you. Fellow with the orange hat.
He's just a support animal.
That's good. I'm going to remember that. Thank you for the laugh. Okay, one row behind, I think, where we're at now with the. Okay. Okay. So have we gone through the process and caught everybody properly? I think we have. So I'll close public hearing. A few comments before we get to the rebuttal process that I'd like to bring up. A lot of questions that I think have been relatively synonymous. Okay. Hang on one second. We're in a quorum situation, and we have a board member that's got a challenge. So how much time have we got?
Just 15 minutes.
Okay. Jamie, where are we at there, time-wise? What's our best option as far as moving forward if we have a limited amount of time and we're probably not going to make it to the end of the rebuttal process?
I just want to make sure I understand the circumstance. So we have a board member who needs to leave?
In 10 minutes.
Yes.
In 10 minutes, okay. Well, a quorum has been established, so I'm not necessarily concerned since we have establishment of a quorum at the outset.
Okay, so since we had one at the outset, if we lose a member now, we're okay?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we're good. Just, take your time. Thank you. So trying to go through the process, I think what I've heard a good bit both ways, I guess, is, when I asked the original questions about the common space, I was thinking in some ways that might be total positive. But as I've heard, I've understand that maybe it's not a total positive thing. And so maybe there could be a little bit discussion in reference to the pluses and minuses of how it may work, with the HOA issue. I really hadn't thought of that one before either. And I'm not sure that that's technically something that we can even discuss. So that would be my first question to Jamie as we move forward.
So you want to make sure that you're eliciting testimony that helps you evaluate the 6 criteria that are articulated in the ordinance? So
In reference to the common space, yeah, because we're looking, I think that was part of the original testimony that came up, that the common space with this project would be a positive with the walking trails and access for the whole community. And what we've heard through some of the folks through conversation, maybe it isn't. So
if you want to ask the applicant to offer some additional testimony to help you understand the common area and how it is, relevant to the multifamily development, you can do that.
Okay. So would that be something we can do before the rebuttal process?
If you have questions, you can ask your questions, yes.
Okay, so let's do that.
I think the concern, and it came, from Mr. Johnson, and I think you had a concept map with the green areas and green. Could you just speak a little more about, the greenway, the walking trail?
Yeah,
Is that just
of
to
course.
answer the question?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And to look on the map here, if we look to the top of the page in the existing community, you can see kind of a circuitous path going down to the lake there in the existing area. We were out there today. It's a beautiful path walking along the lake. We were trying to promote and continue that theme throughout this portion of the development, simply. And utilize some of that open space for something more than just grass that would need to be mowed, right? We wanted to create activation in that space and allow for, I guess, a more enjoyable walk if you were to go from one end to the other in the community versus a standard sidewalk.
And just to be clear, this is part of the concept map. Is these trail systems are not reflected on the project or the site plan, right?
I'm sorry, can you?
These walking trails are only on this concept map. They're not on the site plan.
That's correct. They're not on the engineered drawing. It's just the visual rendering. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and how big an area is it actually? Is there any way that, scale-wise?
Oh.
Can we throw out a number? Acreage, feet? Because it's hard for us to read the scale of the map. I mean,
and are you talking about just the common space?
Yeah, the buffer area,
several
common
acres.
space.
We would be providing as common open space. Do you have is there
Acreage?
That's the challenge we're in, and I don't have a scale with me.
The calculation is in here, I just can't read it on this small scale.
Fair enough.
I saw it in a big map.
Could you guess?
Common area and open space is a total of 7.83 acres.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I think the concern from the public was also the use of that open space. They were concerned with folks going through their yards. So I think the concern is there going to be a way to prevent unauthorized access to adjacent properties to utilize this trail?
Right. I mean, do you want to speak to that?
Well, I actually wanted to speak to the acreage. It's 7.83 acres is the open space area. Of course, that's all of the green area that's up there. That's there. So the big chunk there where the walking trails would be is some portion of that. I don't know that figure.
Yeah, fair enough. Since we're on the open space, how about do we have a rough idea of the buffer area widths just by scale? Can anybody remember when the map was done? Is it 20 feet, 30 feet, 50 feet? I mean, is that available?
It varies probably from 30 to 100 feet, and where you are along that line.
Okay, fair enough.
Mr. Chair, can you repeat that response so we can have it on the record?
Yeah, so what I heard was it varied from 30 to 100 feet depending where a person was along the line.
That's correct. Robert, what was your question?
I think the concern from the public was the unauthorized use of adjacent property owners' yards to access this trail.
Sure. So first of all, I want to remind the board that this is a PUD. Lake Tyler is a PUD that was approved a long, long time ago, and that this area in the front was approved for multifamily use as part of that PUD process. And so the concept has been to use this for multifamily totally. As far as preventing access to that, I don't think the developer would be opposed to, some sort of qualification that there be a fence line along there. But those are design criteria, and I'd like for y'all to keep in mind that this is a use process. So, but they're not opposed to that.
Yeah, thank you.
Putting a fence up.
And then the other question I've got, since we've had a lot of conversation in reference to traffic, the installation of the traffic light, I think it was singular. Is that true that I heard that properly, that it was one traffic light? And then secondly, through the process, would one assume that as soon as the project starts that the traffic lights or lights would be installed? And how would widening of the road or whatever fit into the whole process?
So to answer a previous question from a citizen, it will be at the location that the signal is being proposed is at Olivia Road. So if that was misspoken before, it's at Olivia, so the current main access to the development. And the way that the traffic study was done, it was done all as sort of one phase just to get an overarching feel of what improvements would be. So if upon NCDOT review that the signal is approved, it would likely be required to be installed prior to any of those townhomes being completed or occupied. And sorry, you had a question about widening?
Yes, ingress and egress with the traffic light. So, and I'm basing that based on storage of vehicles. You know, how many vehicles can be stored at that traffic light? Are we going to be backed up a mile down the road, or what's the thought
I think
there?
obviously, I think based on the spacing of sort of where that signal would fall, it would likely be operating in conjunction with the 55 and 43 signal. So the purpose of having that light there would be to facilitate those movements and optimize everything. So I don't think you're going to have a huge backup on any one approach. So.
Fair enough. And going on. Okay, then one additional question in reference to the property itself. I'm sure that somewhere along the way there's a stormwater permit, whether it's already been acquired or in the process. When or where do we stand in reference to that process and the how high the land is or low, and where the stormwater may or may not come in and out?
You're asking about stormwater?
Yes, sir.
When the original work was done on all of the Lake Tyler facilities that's there now, the big subdivision, facilities were stubbed out to this multifamily area to accommodate the the stormwater leaving this site and making its way over to the big lake that's out there to Lake Tyler, which is an old mine. Okay. Possibly, we may want to slow the water down a little bit, so we may, as is shown on here, we may put a retention pond there to slow the water going out. That's the plan right now. The actual detailed design of that has not been done yet. This is just a preliminary design that we've done here. Once we get into the construction plan and the permit documents and all that, then we'll be more detailed design on that.
So the stormwater permit actually, when it was originally developed, included this portion?
It didn't include the development of this area, but it included the sizing of the facilities to accommodate this area. But the stormwater permit itself does not cover the infrastructure to be built on this particular site. That'll be done under either a permit modification to what's already out there or under a separate permit altogether for the multifamily area.
Good. Thank you.
Question, Mr. Chairman. Don't go away, please.
Sorry, I spoke too soon.
Remember, I can't hear, so you have to shout.
I'm sorry. Question, the stormwater pond, that has yet to be designed, is what you're saying?
The details of it, yes. We have done preliminary sizing of this, and I think one of the driving things with this was we had a piece of property there that we could actually do that and actually make a little bit of an amenity out of it. We feel like we probably need to slow the water down a little bit while we're showing the pond in that location before we let it exit the property. But the actual details of that won't be worked out until we get into the construction plans and the permit documents and all that.
Okay. And there was a concern brought up about mosquitoes with the standing water. since it's currently not there, you probably have no information as to what that potential might be? Or is there spraying done?
There are a couple of depressions out there. And in those depressions, probably today, there may be some standing water inside of those depressions. Some of the infrastructure that was done on the previous adjacent subdivisions or maybe are discharging water into those depressions, but there's also an outlet for those depressions as well so they don't fill up and flood. Some of those depressions are going to be left as is. Some of them will be filled to accommodate the development. But there will be drainage provided for the whole site. So there is a possibility, as it is today, on some of these depressions that are in there, there could be some standing water in those depressions because that's naturally what's occurring there. Oh, I'm sorry. You said something about mosquitoes?
Mosquitoes. Sorry.
This is eastern North Carolina, okay? That's all I can say about that.
I know. It was brought up as a question in reference to the mosquitoes, and didn't know if there was a current problem or if it's been addressed for the rest of the current homeowners in that area, if they've experienced problems.
I'm not familiar with that. I don't know what to tell you about the mosquitoes. We don't design for hurricanes, okay? Really, we don't, but they come and go, and we survive.
There was also mentioned that there were some areas that had been designated as wetlands. Is that areas that would be filled in, or how would you address that if that is factual?
There were a couple of pieces of depressions on this property that we're talking about that at one time were determined to be isolated wetlands. And I'll try to be brief with this, but it's a long story, okay? Through the whole process over the years with the federal government and the state of North Carolina, and through numerous court cases, okay, the federal government no longer took, or the Corps of Engineers no longer took jurisdiction over isolated wetlands. However, they did go out and they identified those wetlands as isolated. The state of North Carolina did take jurisdiction over those wetlands, which means if you did anything in there, you had to get a permit from the state of North Carolina. But the Corps of Engineers had to designate it as an isolated wetlands. In May of last year, 2023, the Supreme Court, through a case, got rid of all that, okay? And so there's still some talk about it, but the Supreme Court made the decision that these isolated wetlands are no longer under the jurisdiction of the Corps of Engineers. As a matter of fact, they're not even wetlands anymore. They can't even call them wetlands if they're isolated wetlands, and they don't have what's called a surface connection to a stream or some other body of water. The legislature in the state, I believe in June, mirrored that on what the Supreme Court said. When the Environmental Management Commission met in September, I believe it was September, the Attorney General's office showed up there and told them they didn't have a dog in the fight. So right now, these wetlands are no longer wetlands and nobody has jurisdiction over them. Okay?
Thank you. One more question, Mr. Chairman. There was a question about overflow parking. As to, we saw in the drawings, the one car, two-car garage, and then space in the driveway, and there was a question brought up by testimony as to additional overflow parking. If you had a party at your townhome, where would everyone park? That's it. Just throw that example out.
That's a really good question, and I think that possibly that's something that needs to be considered when we get into the final design of this project. Now, saying that, the parking that's been supplied there meets the city code, okay? But then for all practicality, this is something we can discuss with the developer as we move forward, is to see if there's any need for that sort of thing, okay?
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Okay, so I think we're at a point now where, Eric, do you have 3 minutes to make a closing argument?
I just have a couple of comments. First, again, I would like for you all to keep in mind that this is a use permit process. It's not about design criteria because the developer will have to go through a lot of other permitting processes to get the design done. This was a PUD, and this area was designated for multifamily, and that's what the developer is trying to put there. The evidence that you've heard about the 6 criteria is that this is within the jurisdiction of the table of permissible uses. That's your first criteria. The application is complete, and I think Kendrick would support that. This will comply with the ordinances. You've heard testimony from not only the developer, but also from the engineers and other people that they will follow the ordinances. It's not going to injure values. Ms. Suzanne Nelson testified to that. It's not going to materially endanger the health or safety of people, and it will be compliant with the different ordinances and traffic criteria that the NCDOT establishes. And lastly, it's in harmony with the area. You've seen renderings of the types of structures that they plan to put there. Those types of structures are similar to the structures that are in Lake Tyler already. And so this proposed project is very much in harmony with the surrounding area. I went through all of the land use plan criteria and showed you all the different areas where it matches up with what the land use plan says for the future use of this area, being that it is in that North Carolina 43 focus area. And so we would ask you to approve this application because we believe it meets all of the criteria. We believe that the technical criteria have been found to be there by the staff and by the DRC committee, and we believe that the other experts that have testified tonight have shown that. The testimony from the residents and stuff, while we accept that, we have tried to make some changes based on that, but none of them talked about anything that was particular to them. They only talked about generalized issues to the neighborhood, and that does not give them standing to be able to testify in these kind of hearings. And anything about traffic, they did not have standing for. So, again, we would ask you all to approve this. We think it's a good project, and it will add benefit to the area. And so we'd ask you to grant the special use permit. And again, we're happy to answer any other questions.
Yeah, thank you. Does the board have any questions?
No questions from me.
No.
Okay, thank you. So I guess we're in the process to move forward in reference to the 6 criteria. You did present the information and everything in reference to the permissible. We have those in front of us. So I think that we're good. So number 1, the requested permit is within its jurisdiction according to the table of permissible uses. Do any board members have any questions in reference to it?
No.
Are we ready to have a motion?
Yeah, I move for a vote that the requested permit is within the jurisdiction according to the table of permissible uses.
Second.
We should probably have a roll call.
Yes, sir. Board Member Kathleen Marty.
Aye.
Chairman Tim Tabet.
Aye.
Board Member Trey Ferguson.
Aye.
And Board Member Sampson.
Aye.
Excuse me, and one more, I apologize. Board Member Sandra Gray.
So how do we deal with that? Just so the public can understand when we asked for the 5th board member that's here or was here?
Because she was here at the beginning of the meeting, she helped establish a quorum. Just because you leave the meeting does not excuse you from a duty to vote. So we call her name because she still would have a duty to participate.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our second criteria is the application complete.
I move the application is complete.
Second.
Any conversation?
None.
Can we have a roll call?
Yes, sir. Board Member Marty.
Yes.
And Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Board Member Trey Ferguson.
Aye.
And Board Member Sampson.
Yes.
And Board Member Sandra Gray.
Okay, our third, if completed as proposed in the application, the development will comply with all of the requirements of this ordinance. Any conversation?
Now I move to find, if completed as proposed in the application, the development will comply with all of the requirements of this ordinance.
Second.
Roll call.
Yes, sir. Board Member Kathleen Marty,
Aye.
Chairman Tim Tabak,
Aye.
and Board Member Trey Ferguson,
Aye.
and Board Member Barbara Sampson,
Aye.
and Board Member, Sandra Gray.
Number 5. That,
Four.
yeah, excuse me, 4. One ahead. That the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and developed according to the plan as submitted. Is there any discussion?
And I would just for the record to reflect, and I think Kendrick testified on this, that the revised site plan addressed all of the DRC comments from that first round, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? We have a roll call?
Yes, sir. And Board Member Kathleen Marty,
Aye.
Chairman Tim Tabak,
Aye.
Board Member Trey Ferguson,
Aye.
and Board Member Barbara Sampson,
Aye.
and Board Member Sandra Gray.
Number 5, that the use will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting property, or that the use is a public necessity.
So moved.
Second.
Do we have any discussion? May we have a
Yes, sir.
roll call?
Board Member Kathleen Marty,
Aye.
Chairman Tim Tabak,
Aye.
Board Member Trey Ferguson,
Aye.
and Board Member Barbara Sampson,
Aye.
and Board Member Sandra Gray.
Number 6, that the location and character of the use, if developed according to the plan as submitted and approved, will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located and in general conformity with the plan of development of the city. Do we have any discussion? So I've just got one comment, and just curious. You know, we had some discussion about the DOT traffic plan. Is that something that we need to discuss in reference to a condition at this point, or do we talk about a condition after the fact, or where do we
Yes,
need
sir.
to go?
So you would entertain whether they've established the 6 criteria, and then if you want to have any discussion about conditions, you would do so thereafter.
Thank you. So do we have any additional comments?
Again, just for the record, I would put, and I don't remember if Kendrick put this in there, but there's a statement that within a half a mile of site, there are residential, single-family dwellings, duplexes, manufactured home park, an energy utility station, and some vacant lots. So just an understanding of our understanding of the surrounding area, that's also taken into consideration. So with that, and based on the testimony before us today, so moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Kendrick, would you have a roll call?
Yes, sir. And Board Member Kathleen Marty,
Aye.
Chairman Tim Tabak,
Aye.
Board Member Trey Ferguson,
Aye.
and Board Member Barbara Sampson,
Aye.
and Board Member Sandra Gray.
So all we've moved ahead, and prior to approving the application, do we have any conditions that we would like to discuss?
So the 2 conditions that I took note of when we were deliberating and hearing the testimony, it was compliance with Department of Transportation's recommendations regarding the traffic impact analysis. I think that's already required. I don't think it has to be a condition, but if it makes people feel comfortable, that's fine. But I don't think that's a required condition. The other one, which is one Robert, eloquently put about getting rid of, I think it was 053 through 056 on the site plan, which showed that amenity area. Those were the 2 that I had listed that we had discussed. I personally don't think the DOT is required, since they already have to comply with DOT's and the city's recommendations as to roads. I also don't necessarily think we have jurisdiction for that, but I would like some discussion about the amenity area, and it was on the map.
Yeah, it was
the concept map from Mr. Johnson.
It's also on the application. They asked for 24 buildings with 145 units, so this would be a revision to the original application as well as the site plan. We've been looking at a rendering that is not a site plan. What's in your packet is a site plan, so I'd like to call some attention to that and ask if they're agreeable to reducing from what was on the application from 24 to 23 buildings and 145 units to 141 units. I think that's kind of
Thank you,
where
Jessica.
you're going.
Mr. Remington?
Yes, the developer is agreeable to reducing it by 1 building and 4 units.
Thank you.
And the last thing I had noted, if you may or may not want to discuss this, was up at the northwest property line, there's some kind of buffer where we started talking about trails. Again, it's been pointed out, that's not part of what we need to approve tonight, but if it would add comfort, if you wanted to consider it more, if there is plans for a trail that have been kind of put out today, if you wanted to consider some other kind of buffer between those residences that exist in that green space.
This is a comment to staff. The trails, which are not part of the site plan, and so it's part of concept. If they decide to do trails, or the developer decides to put in some fence along the property line to address the resident concerns about, folks passing through their yards to get on these trails, that's something that's a minor revision that staff could approve, correct?
Yes. Trails and fences, neither one require even permits out of our office. You could just kind of do them. If you wanted assurance there was some kind of buffer there, now would be the time to discuss it on the overall site plan.
Correct. So that would be something the staff would approve, and if they didn't, then they could come back here and appeal that denial, correct?
Sounds like Jessica's saying that we can make it a condition.
Staff can't say you got to put a fence up.
Yeah.
And we don't even require a permit for one in the city of New Bern.
Right.
Unless you're in a historic district. So if you'd like something like that or not, now just decide now.
So is it possible to come up with a condition where the applicant and the adjoining HOAs continue a dialogue to, I'm trying to think of a good way to do, or do we just say fence?
Since we're on the site plan, we don't have any plans for walking trails. That was just a concept. If they decide, can we make a condition that if they decide to put in walking trails, that they also have to put in a fence? I think the way I would think of that is the walking trail is an additional use, some kind of park recreation, not just multifamily. And so maybe there's some condition there. I'm not so sure we could even add that type of condition, so I'm going to defer to the learned counsel.
That is a very good question. And that is an interesting interpretation of an additional recreational use.
Just make sure we have multiple avenues for appeal.
I think I can shortcut this discussion. We have no problem with you all adding a condition to the special use permit that if there are walking trails, that if the staff thinks that a fence is, and the HOA thinks that a fence is required, then we'll put in a fence.
Perfect. I think.
Now that we have that on the record, I feel a lot better.
The condition does have to be agreed by both parties, with the applicant and the city, so that would be helpful.
So if that's the case, I would be comfortable adding a condition that if the developer decides to put in walking trails, that they'll put in a fence along the property line as to block the other side of the subdivision area.
The north side.
Second.
Do we have any discussion?
Just so we're clear on the motion, Mr. Ferguson, your motion was if there's a walking trail, there's a fence on the northern boundary line.
Yes.
Not the entire parcel.
Oh, correct.
Just that funny quadrant, that thing. Yes.
Any additional comments? So do we need to do a roll call on this?
We can do that, yes.
Okay.
I'm going to start with Board Member Kathleen Marty.
Aye.
Chairman Tim Taylor.
Aye.
I'm sorry. Can I maybe clarify that motion just a little bit? I think it'd make it easier that, you would say that the fence has to be between the townhome area and what's the road there?
Gabriella Street?
Yes, Gabriel. The houses there along Gabriel, on that side of the property, because I'm not sure whether it's north or east or.
Got it.
Yeah,
or what.
that
Got it.
makes
Is that
more
what you're
sense.
talking about, Mr. Ferguson?
Yes, because I think on the concept map, they had these walking trails, and we heard some concerns, which I think fit into the safety aspect. Some concerns about people coming through those houses' yards, so maybe a fence. That's
As far as the geographical location. of
Yes,
it, that's
correct.
what you're talking about. And Ms. Marty, was that your understanding when you made the second?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll continue.
So
Chairman.
do we need to revise the?
No.
No.
Okay.
So I'll continue. Chairman Tabak?
Yes.
All right. Board Member Trey Ferguson?
yes.
And Board Member Barbara Sampson?
Yes.
Board Member Sandra Gray?
And then we need to discuss the condition in reference to the reducing the permit to make sure that what was it, the words as far as from the number of,
Units.
Jessica, you said,
Oh,
you hit it exactly.
145 to 141.
145 to 141?
Units 053 through 056.
Okay. Can someone point that out to me on the map? The numbers are so small, I'm not sure exactly where we're talking.
Do you see the existing amenity pool common area?
Yes,
It's the 4 units to the left of that.
those 4 units would be eliminated. Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Okay.
It is a little confusing.
It is, okay. All right, thank you.
So, yeah, do we have the specific wording that we can make?
However, Jessica and Robert put it, so moved.
That a revised application and site plan shows that units 053 through 056 are removed.
Second.
Okay, do we have any, can we do it that way? Is that legal?
Mr. Ferguson, was that your motion? The
That was my
language that Mr.
motion,
Dawson
yes.
said? Okay. Ms. Marty, was that your second to that language that Mr.
Yes.
Dawson has proposed? You can call for a vote.
Do we have any discussion? And let's just make sure that this is what we discussed earlier.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you. Yes, let's call for a vote.
Yes, sir. Board Member Kathleen Martin?
Aye.
Chairman Tim Tabak?
Aye.
Board Member Trey Ferguson?
Aye.
Board Member Barbara Sampson?
Aye.
And Board Member Sandra Gray?
Okay, so I think we're in the position where we need to make a discussion about accepting the permit or approving the permit.
Yes, sir.
So do we have a motion?
So moved.
And that,
With conditions?
With conditions.
with conditions. And we have the two, do we need to
Need a second.
readdress the two conditions? Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any discussion? Okay, can we have a roll call?
Yes, sir. Board Member Kathleen Martin?
Aye.
Chairman Tim Tabak?
Aye.
Board Member Trey Ferguson?
Aye.
Board Member Barbara Sampson?
Aye.
And Board Member Sandra Gray?
Thank you. So I think we're in a position now we can adjourn the meeting, is that correct?
Chairman, you would want to advise the applicant that either their special use permit has been approved or denied.
Okay, so it has been approved.
And just to be clear, you have not attached a duration to the permit? Is it the 2 years, or what's the pleasure of the board?
All right.
May I speak to that?
Please do.
Yes, we would ask for a minimum of 2 years. 3 years would be better, just because of the time that it takes to get these applications and permits and all those processes completed.
So is 2 years adequate? Do we
I
need-
move that it be 3 years.
3 years would be better, and I think that allows us, there's one extension that we can get, but it's a short one, right? Correct?
We have the motion, I second.
Is there any additional discussion? Do we need a roll call vote?
You can do a voice vote if you'd like.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And do we need to ask for our 5th member? Or are we good?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay, so I guess it's time to advise the applicant that we did approve the special use permit with 2 conditions in reference to the buildings. And then also, we gave 3 years. And do we have us having to cover, Jamie? We're good?
You're
Okay.
I move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. And I'd just like to say thank you to the public and everybody for being very orderly.
Yep.
Appreciate the whole process.